Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. Let me ask you a question. Is your nonprofit relying on volunteers because you don't really have enough staff and you're thinking, I'm going to get volunteers to fill in the gaps where we are understaffed? Well, if that's you, stick around for the next 5 minutes or so, because I am going to show you why this common approach often leads to more problems than it solves, and how to strike the right balance between volunteers and paid staff for sustainable success. All right. Leading volunteers is actually quite a bit of work. So often when we start bringing on volunteers, when what we really needed were paid staff, we underestimate how much time and energy it's going to take to lead volunteers. And it takes extra time and energy because volunteers often are not with us full time. They're not necessarily accountable, no fault of their own, but this is often their extra thing, their volunteer thing. Often, if they have a conflict with work, they're probably going to do their work thing first, so that they can continue to be able to volunteer. You might not be their very first priority. You might be their total, where their heart and passion is, and they're going to be there for you. But ultimately, we have to account for the time it takes to find volunteers, the time it takes to lead volunteers. And usually what I see happen is organizations say, we don't have enough money to pay for the staff that we really need, so we're going to have volunteers do that. And the extra work that goes into getting and coordinating the volunteers and keeping the volunteers takes away needed time from doing the revenue generating activities that would actually fix the problem. And so we're actually end up making the problem worse, because now we have even more demands on the leadership we do have and less proportionate revenue coming in. So what do we need to do instead? First of all, if you are understaffed, think about focusing as much effort or all your efforts on bringing in revenue. So fundraising, typically the best place to be focusing is major donors, depending on where you are in your journey. But usually that's the best place to start. Solving a staffing gap with grants is not a great strategy. So think about expanding your donor base. You could use some volunteers to assist you in kind of the extra stuff related to bringing in that money. Once you bring in that money, then you can hire the staff that you need. But don't forget to, as I like to say, keep your money pie and your mission pie in balance, right? So don't just say, oh, now I've got some money and I'm going to spend it all on my mission pie. Those are my programs and my mission related activities. Make sure that you keep reinvesting some of the new money coming in into increasing your money pie. That's your ability to have more money. And that you then also invest in your mission pie when there's enough to do that, so that you're keeping your money pie just a little bit bigger than your mission pie, but you're growing both at the same time. When it comes to having volunteers, and volunteers are a great asset that the nonprofit space has, I want you to think about using your volunteers for the nice to haves instead of the core necessities. So maybe you have an office with a busy office receptionist person. Maybe don't replace your reception person who needs to do all these critical functions with a volunteer, but maybe add volunteer greeters, people who help what make people feel welcome, guide them where they need to go, and reduce that burden on the person who's paid and providing those core functions. So think about that. And if you need to build a team of volunteers to do something massive, like let's say you're distributing food or any sort of like emergency relief, those types of activities, which are really well kind of staffed by volunteers. You only want to do that when you have somebody who's truly available to be a paid staff member whose job is to coordinate and lead those volunteers. Typically, when we are understaffed and thinking, oh, we'll fill the gap with volunteers, we don't have somebody on staff who part or all of their job is to lead or manage volunteers. So think about having volunteers when it is somebody's job to be managing or leading those volunteers, and they have a reasonable amount of time and energy to dedicate to doing that. That is my tip for you today. It is such a pleasure to be with you each week and provide you tips and insights. If you're thinking, oh my God, I would love to be implementing these kinds of tips with guidance from Sarah, you can go to pivotground.com/application and fill out a very short application and tell me a little bit about yourself. I review those applications manually, and then if it seems like we might be a good fit, we'll get on a call together and talk about your options. And that's all I have for you today. Until next time, all the best.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.